Hi, I'm Tricia at Club Scrap and welcome to the Bandana Card Kit Workshop. During our time together, we are going to create 12 gorgeous greeting cards, 4 each of 3 different styles. And basically during the class, we'll trim all the papers, score them, and then create one sample of each card style together. The rest you'll be able to complete on your own without any difficulty. Just repeat the video process and you'll be fine. So let's go ahead and get started with our card making. Here I have the entire bandana card kit, and for now I'm just going to set aside all of the goodies and envelopes that came in the box and just leave it to the paper. And I have a printed copy of the card kit instructions, as well as my accordion pocket file and my favorite trimmer. For more information about the pocket file and trimmer, just click the link below to learn more, and we'll get you set up with these items if you don't already have them. Now the lip on the front of my pocket file goes underneath the base of my trimmer and holds it vertical there. And I think for best results, let's take the paper and sort it in the order we'll be using it. So let's take one of the white. This is a soft white paper here with a kind of a deep texture. It's very beautiful. Take one of those and then one of the aqua. And then next we'll trim a red and one black. Now we're going to go through those again. I think we'll do one more soft white, another blue, one red, one black. And then you should have 2 prints left. These are the red, like paisley style print. Put those face down on your trimmer base. And then you have a sheet that has a lot of black squares on it. That'll be next, face down. And then finally the last sheet here with the 2 aqua edges, put that face down. Now just flip the whole pile back over to the white that's on top, and we'll follow our trimming instructions together. And we'll just be starting right here with step 1, and each step now with the new formatting is listed separately, and then the scoring instructions will be in italic, just so that you know some changes if you've been following us for a while. Now it's important before we trim this paper to determine the grain directions so that eventually when we fold the paper, we fold in the same direction as the grain. You know, that makes it a lot nicer looking fold. So I just kind of do the push test. So first, if you hold the paper by an edge and just kind of wiggle it, one side is going to be a lot more flimsy than the other, and it'll be easier to push the paper together. So in the diagram, you'll see a little arrow, in this case pointing left to right. So we want the paper to push together most easily in that direction, and plop it in the trimmer that way. Same with this blue. We're going to trim both papers at the same time. Now this is quite stiff. This is very flexible. It pushes together easily, and that's why I want it dropped down into the trimmer base. So we'll stack the 2 papers neatly together. And when we trim, make sure your paper is nice and flush up at the top edge of the trimmer base. We'll cut at 11 1/4. So once you find 11, I like to go left 1 vertical column. Those columns are really nice for finding those 1/4 inches. Then stabilize by pushing down firmly on this bar to keep the papers from moving. When the blade comes down, it'll go nice and clean, and leave the piece lay where it landed while we move on to the next measurement, which is 8 1/2. So 8, 2 columns left, stabilize firmly, and slice. Next, we'll rotate the paper in the trimmer base and trim at 11 and 5 1/2. Okay, now these grow up to become card bases, so we're going to set them aside for now. We're not going to file them in any pockets. We'll do that after we score them. Now we have this piece that fell off the end. That's going to be a scrap, and I usually put my scraps in pocket D. In case I decide to incorporate them in one of the card sets, I've got them handy. And you do have another longer skinny piece here. This is 2 3/4 by 12. We'll trim this horizontally at 6. And all 4 pieces you just trimmed go in pocket B, B as in Bravo. And then the last 2 strips also D David, just in case we decide to use them later. Next, we have 2 more sheets we're going to cut at the same time, but at different measurements. And once again, we want the paper dipping most easily from left to right. So do your push test and drop it in so it's pushing easily in that direction. Same here. I always compare. It should flow this way. Drop it in. And our first cut on this one is at 9.5. So 9 plus 2 columns left is 9.5. Stabilize. Then rotate and trim this 9.5 by 12 at 10.5. 7. There's some heavy papers here. And 3.5. Now take this 3.5-inch piece, rotate it so it's horizontally, and trim at 4 3/4. The panels you just made, there's a total of 4. Those go in pocket B, Bravo. And then you have these sets of long, narrow pieces. Set these aside to be scored. And then there's one more kind of skinny piece. This ends up being a scrap. We'll put it in pocket D. And then we have this last piece here. We're going to trim this horizontally at 11.5. And 5 3/4. The set of panels, all of them go again in B, Bravo. And you've just made 2 tiny little scraps. I'm just going to set those aside, not worry about filing them at all. We'll move on to our next trimming diagram in step 3. And this time when we do our little push test, we want the paper to push in easily from the top to the bottom and drop it in that way. We'll take the soft white, and then we'll also take the aqua, again, top to bottom, because eventually the pieces will be folded in that direction. We want them to fold nice and clean. And our first measurement here is 10. And then all the way down to 7, not that far. Okay, rotate and trim the 7 by 12 at 8 inches. Now this whole piece, you're gonna set it aside to be scored. And the piece that fell off the end there, we're gonna cut at 6. This panel goes in pocket C, and we do have a tiny little piece that fell. I'll just set that aside. And then we have a strip that measures 3 by 12 right now. We'll cut at 11.5, 8 3/4, and 5.5. Now this piece also needs to be scored. We'll set it aside. Then you have a set of, let's see, a rectangle and another rectangle. But what's cool about these rectangles is that they nest. So take a look at this. This is so cool. These are all calculated to nest. Love how that turned out. All of that goes in pocket C. And you had some little 1/2-inch pieces that fell from the end. Now take the final strip. We'll trim at 6 3/4. This long strip goes in pocket C, and then the shorter one, B. Oh, I got nothing left there. We're gonna do that all one more time, okay? So let's do our push test. We want the paper dipping or pushing easily from top to bottom. Drop it in on the red and then on the black as well. Stack the sheets neatly together, and our first cut is once again at 10. And 7. Give that a rotation and trim at 8. And set this aside to be scored. The rectangle now, we're going to trim at 6. And this will be placed in pocket C with the tiny piece that fell from the end to be set aside. And then we'll grab the next strip, which is 3 by 12 right now. We'll cut at 11.5, 8 3/4, and 5.5. The 5.5-inch piece gets set aside to be scored. And the next nestables, both sets, goes in pocket C. Some scraps that fell again from the end. Set those aside, and the final strip will cut at 6 3/4. this long strip, pocket C, and the shorter one in B. Moving on to step 4, which will be 1 sheet of the print. And because the print is sort of an all over, it doesn't really matter how the print is placed in the trimmer, especially because we're not going to be folding it. Let's cut at 11 3/4, 8, and 4 1/4. Now rotate the 4 1/4 inch piece and cut at 9, 6, and 3. The 4 equal size panels you just made, pocket B, and the next 2 we can trim at the same time. They're the same width. And when I'm trimming prints, I like to face the white side together so it's less slippery on the pairing. And let's cut them at 11 1/2 and 5 3/4. Before you file them, I recommend putting them back the right direction again. Place them in C. Well, that's going into C, huh? Just wait. Some scraps here. We have this long skinny strip. Sometimes I like to use it, so I'm going to put that in D in case I decide to use it, and we'll move on to the next sheet of the print. This too doesn't matter how it goes in the trimmer because it will not be folded. First measurement is 10 3/4. Now bear with me here. Our next measurement is 5 3/8. So halfway between 5 1/4 and 5 1/2 is 5 3/8. Let me just show you how that works here. We got, that's 5 1/8, 5 2/8, 5 3/8. Not so bad. Same deal now. We've got 2 pieces the same size. Put them so they're facing each other back to back. And I got some fun measurements for you, all the even numbers. So let's begin at 10, then 8, 6, 4, and 2. Same thing, you're gonna separate these out. Now what's kind of nice here is if you can manage to reassemble your pieces kind of in the order they landed to try to get that print to all match up again. That's how I ultimately want these to be placed onto the cards. It doesn't have to be that way, but if it can happen, that's kind of nice. So I'm going to grab from the top here and get them all kind of in the order. And then if I do this, the art should reassemble itself in the same exact order. If you didn't follow that, no big deal, but it's just nice if these kind of reassemble themselves into a little, completed image. This piece can be placed in the D pocket, and we're moving on to the Cutaparts. You'll notice if you look carefully around the outside edge, there's some text that says to remove the paper outside of corner cutting guides. That's the corner cutting guide. Now I'm going to start out by removing a generous portion, like by generous meaning I'm not going to cut all the way to the line because it's really hard for me, considering the size of the piece. I cannot see the blade down here in the lower corner. So I'm just going to cut and leaving a little bit of that mark behind. When I rotate now, I can easily see where the blade meets the line down over here and up here, and just trim that off as accurately as I can with a rotation, another rotation, and this we should be able to just look left at the 12 and it should line up on the right with the line, and it does. And then same thing for that last little smidgen. You can see my smidgen that I took off with this marvelous trimmer. Dispose of those, and we're going to rotate this so the black squares are on the left. This is kind of important. The orientation of this when we trim, it has to be right. And our first cut will be then at 10, 7 1/2, 5, 2 1/2. I think we can do a back to back here. So I'm going to take these 2 strips, put them back to back, white to white, making sure that love is on the end on both pieces. You don't want to trim in the opposite direction on one of them. And our first cut's at 11, 8 1/4, 5.5, and 2 3/4. Same drill. Let's get these placed correctly. And if you just go as you flip, you're going to put all the innies next to their outies. And all of these black squares, or rectangles rather, go in pocket A. And then the love that fell off the end, you can choose to use if you like. I'm just going to put it in D. I didn't really have a specific assignment for that image. It would have been a scrap. So our designer, Jacqueline Carney, lovingly puts artwork there. So if you want to like enhance your card in any way, you can just add it. The next 2 strips I'll place back to back once again. And I think we have the same measurements. 11 will be the start. Yes, 11. 8 1/4. 5.5. 2 3/4. And let's do our little trick now. So this is outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, inside. Very clever mapping, you have to agree. 2 more little pieces as scraps for pocket D. And then you have this last piece, and the measurement here is 10 3/4. Now bear with me, it's a review. 5 3/8, so there's 5. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. Pocket A and a scrap. Now we have our next piece. Again, the perimeter needs to be removed. So let's do it in the same fashion. I'll go shy of the line here, give it a rotation, line up the mark with the edge of the blade. Sometimes you have to level it, and that's perfectly okay. Just line up those marks, prioritize that. When you make your rotation, the piece will be level. This time I can look at my 12 for the 3rd side here. And then for our final side, again, I can look at the 12 on the left, take off my smidgen, get rid of my little ends. And let's see, once again, we want the teal pieces on the right side, okay? So our first cut will be at 10. 8, let's go 8, 6 1/4, 4 1/2, and 2 1/4. Taking the next, or the 2 pieces, the one that was still in your trimmer base and the one that just fell, place them back to back so the loves are on the right. And let's cut this at 11 and 5 1/2. Face them and place in pocket B. 2 loves left over. I got leftover love. Now we have 2 more strips that match. Face them back to back. This time the measurements are a little different. It'll be 10 and 5. Look at these facing the same way again. Pocket B. 2 end cuts that go in D. This one, you have to trim it solo. It's kind of nice just to do it with one sheet. And we'll start at 10, 8, 6, and 4. All of these little hearts, pocket B, and then all of the sentiments B also. These are your last 2 cuts, my friends. Okay, so we're gonna go 10 3/4, and your favorite new measurement, 5 3/8. So again, 5, 5 1/8, 5 2/8, 5 3/8. Pocket A for the win, and a scrap. Do with as you please. We are going to swap our trimmer with our score pal. Here is the stack that we'd set aside to be scored. Got my score pal here, and I'm going to use a ball tip stylus for my scoring itself. I prefer it over the this guy that stores in the score pal actually. So we have those smaller pieces, and if you look, just kind of sort through, you're going to find 4 of them. total, and they might be separated by a larger piece. We're going to score these horizontally. So in other words, the horizon or the long portion of it will be along the edge of the measurements here. So it's currently 5.5 wide by 3. We're going to score in half at 2 3/4. I like to hold my scoring device here like a pencil rather than overhanded, and keeping my palm on the work surface, pushing firmly. This is really heavy paper, so you can push quite firmly. Bring the next one in, 2 3/4. The next one at 2 3/4 again, and 2 3/4. And if you're scoring the paper with the texture, score with the right side of the paper facing up. And I do feel that there is a deeper texture on one side than the other. So make sure that the indentation of the score is on the correct or right side of the paper. And all of these get filed in pocket A. Next, we have the larger pieces now. These are going to be placed horizontally into the score pile again. So it reads 8 here, 7 there, and we'll just score it a nice whole number of 5. Firmly on this black. It's really, really heavyweight paper. Then the red, always make sure it says 8 here. This paper is almost square, so check for the 8 and score at 5. Scoring at 5. All of these go in pocket C to be used later. All right, now we have these long skinny guys, and horizontally in again with 9.5 on this end. And we'll score it 8.5. There should be 2 red and 2 black if you're using these papers, but you might be substituting with papers of your own, which is super cool because these formulas are recyclable. Again, all of those were scored at 8.5 and are placed in pocket B. A, B here. Okay, next we have very special scoring instructions for the final set of 4 card bases. Now make sure it's horizontally placed, so it reads 8.5, and we are going to score at 2 1/8. I love the score pal eighths because the 2 1/8 mark actually has a little dot. That means it's a commonly used number. It's because 2 1/8 is half of 4 1/4. So anyway, 2 1/8. Once you make that score line, flip the paper from the bottom to the top and score at 4 1/4. And there's a little asterisk at 4 1/4. Super cool. All right, the next one I have in my pile is the soft white. I'll go 2 1/8. Flip 4 1/4. 2 1/8. Flip 4 1/4. 2 1/8. Flip 4 1/4. Awesome. All 4 of these pieces, pocket A, and we're finished with our scoring. And now it's time to make some cards. For starters, let's take everything out of pocket A to make our first set of cards. And I'll show you kind of where we're headed. Here we have our unique structure. This is a new find for me, a new formula for me. And this is why we trimmed all of those clever little measurements. This was the, let's see, 5 3/8 is this height. And that's what was needed so that we could distribute these 2-inch panels evenly over the base of the card to kind of make a complete landscape. Kind of cool. Now, this piece is attached to the card with foam adhesive. So if you have foam adhesive circles, it's going to be, those are going to come in handy. And then this piece fits under the folded sentiment. So lots of fun interaction going on with this card. Plus it'll look cool when it's on display, and it will mail flat, even with this cute little flat charm on here. So very, very easy assembly. Let's start out with our card bases here. And what I like to do as well when I empty a pocket is to sort things by size. You've got all of those carefully sorted red panels. I'm going to try to keep those together. We have our aqua panels, our sentiments. Okay, now taking the card base, look for the bump of the fold at the center of the card and fold on that, making sure that the edges are lined up, and then you can crease it with a bone folder if you have one. Now here is my other bump. So the bump of the score gets buried inside the fold. And now we have our first card base with this cute little Z fold on the front. Same thing with the remaining card bases. Just give those a nice burnish so that they don't pop up. And as a reminder now, at the center bump here, when we scored these, when we cut the paper, I was planning ahead for this very moment to know that we are folding with the grain direction. If we weren't, these cards would be a lot more likely to like pop up and not want to stay down as nice and neat as they are. And that's kind of how that all works. Okay, so here we have our beautiful card bases ready to go. Let's just distribute them now. We're going to go with the aqua card base, the soft white, aqua. It doesn't really matter so much with these. Then we have all these strips. Now you see that there's like a pattern on the upper half of this where it's more white, and then you have a area at the bottom that's doesn't have the bright white, and that's going to allow you to write a little note or a message on there, personalize it. So make sure that that's toward the bottom. And you see how it fits right into the revealed side of the card. Then I'm going to distribute 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Next, each card needs one of these pieces that will be folded in half, remembering to bury the bump of the score line when you fold it. We'll just distribute it whole right now. So I'm going to go red on this one, then black, aqua, and white. So I'm starting to distribute more colors to these cards. For the sentiments, we'll add stop adding up the years, start adding up your senior discounts. For this one, I got you some cryptocurrency for your birthday, but I forgot the password. Here's a card instead. Happy birthday. Our laughs are limitless. Our memories are countless. Our friendship is endless. And those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day, thinking of you during this difficult time. Very sweet. Each one of these cards also receives one of these gorgeous teardrop shaped charms. They're nice and pancake flat, which is what I really look for because I don't like to worry about a card making it to its destination without postage due. I'm going to take one of the smallest size envelope we've provided with your kit and slide the contents of each pile, except the first one, into an envelope so that you can have all of the materials for each card ready to go. And then take this first one. We're going to make this one together, and the rest is all assembled the same way. That's the beauty of the system, okay? So here we are. This is nice and easy. Let's just see kind of how these pieces end up fitting together. Do they? Here we go. My 3 pieces form the whole image. Again, that's not that important. And then we have this piece right here, the 4th one, to be placed onto the card. Now, this is how I did it. It saved me quite a bit of time. So here's my card base. Make sure that this flap, this I would call a mountain fold, and a free edge, you can open it up this way, okay? Make sure here's your mountain, valley, larger panel. I'm going to take my adhesive and run a strip on the right center, left of center, down that panel, and this panel. Then I can just take this and put it within, and it's going to be a 1/16 of an inch reveal, a very small reveal here. That's the first red, the second, the third, and the 4th. Not difficult at all, was it? Okay, now for this one, stop adding up the years. I took some of the waxed cord from the kit. I'm just going to trim off a piece and thread this through the top. There's like a larger hole at the top of this teardrop charm. Maybe I should do the cut edge here. Make sure it's a nice fresh edge. Good. And then I'm just going to go off center with it and give it a little tie so it stays put on the thread. And I kind of have it placed. I'm going to turn this over and add my, oops, I'm running out of adhesive on this. And then I can just wrap these ends around to the back and the adhesive will make it stick. And I can add some tape if I want to make it really extra secure, or I can go over the top of it with more. And now I have it ready, so I should fold this, fold this little piece, burying the bump of the score line. And I'll place this on the outside of my sentiment flap here. And I'll add some adhesive to the inner sentiment as well. And this is what's also going to give you an opportunity to write a little personalized message on the inside of this folded piece. Next, I want to add this to the card when it's closed, but I only want to put adhesive on the right side of the sentiment, and then I'm going to put it about 1 inch down from the top and centered on the card. So the way I'd like to do this is kind of eyeball where the center is, and then flip it over from top to bottom. And I only need to put adhesive in this area, and I am going to be using my foam adhesive circles because I want this piece to be elevated a little bit so it will fit the flaps from the left side of the card underneath. So here are my little adhesives all ready to go. I like to peel the backing off of something like this rather than trying to find an edge. These come with the little pull tabs on them. Love that. Okay, now here I've got my grid ruler handy. So I'm going to go 1 inch from the top, and I can really see the 0 center by the virtue of this fold that's at the center of the card. Super easy to find that. Then I'll come in with this guy, and it looks like 1.5 inches on each side makes me centered and level. And now it opens this way and this way, and it still tucks really easily as well. So mail's flat, displays beautifully. There is your set A card. Now taking a look at the remainder, you're going to see right away they're all the same. So this is the one we made together, and then you've got 3 more just like it. Same exact setup. Of course, feel free to change this in any way you like. If you wanted to change the way the embellishments are used, whatever you think, but that's set A. The remaining 3 cards, again, we can put our little sample with the envelope with our 3 remaining cards and make them as soon as we're done with the class. Next up, empty everything out of pocket B. And we've got these long pieces, some shorter ones. There's all kinds of stuff going on here. Lots of panels of various sizes. And we have our sentiments here. So everything's kind of going to have its own little pile. So these long panels, we're going to distribute first. And again, they have a little score line on the end. We'll fold that together later on. So we've got the black, red, and then I'll have you do a red black, so it matches what we have lined up in the instructions. Then we'll have matching the color. Now these are those rectangular panels. Add the same color that we used for the base. Then we have these printed panels. Just give 1 of each to the card. And then you can see we have all these nestables. There's a small, medium, and large. Let's start with the large. And on this one we'll do aqua, then white, soft white, white, and aqua. Next, the medium-sized panels. Let's get those distributed. Red, black, black, red. The smallest oblong-shaped panels. Soft white, aqua, black, and red. All right, now we have some sentiments here. We'll begin with in between hello and goodbye, there was so much love. And those would be the top 2 cards. And the bottom 2 are I count you twice. Then we have pets are not our whole life, but they make our lives whole. 2 of those on the first 2. And then when I count my blessings, I count you twice. Now we have the squares. So sorry for your loss will be the first 2. You're the best will be the second 2. From the pile of goodies that you have, we're going to do a square tag on each one. And then we have these sweet little hearts. So I'm just going to do a rough cut to separate them. We'll place the red heart on this one, the blue heart on this one, and the black one on this one. Now we've got your envelopes, and because we didn't fold, it's not going to fit. So I'm just going to kind of have this situated however you can get it in there, or you can make the little fold on the the largest base, and it will fit perfectly into the long skinny envelope we have included in your kit. And let's make this first card together. If you happen to have a corner rounder punch or a corner chomper, which is I'm going to be using, I'm looking to use the 1/4 inch size of the radius. So that would be on this side. And then you just open the butterflies and slide your corners in. We're going to do a lot of corner trimming. Let's get that out of the way right out of the gates here. So every one of these little pieces of art has a nice rounded corner printed on it already. So I'm just going to follow that through on many of these panels, and just be careful. I have some advice for you as we go along the way. So we've got all of these printed sentiments, and one option would have been to do all this rounding in stacks, because this is capable of rounding several layers of paper at a time. It's a very powerful little chomper here, but it makes quick work of it if you have something like this. The standard punch style, you know, that can be a little bit more work. Now on this one, I'm just going to do 2 edges along a short side, and the same for this. So I'm leaving the left edge square and the right edge rounded. I should redo this one. Didn't have it in there well. Same with this one. This is the scored edge, the non-scored edge. Go on that edge only. And then fold along the raised so that the bump of the score line is on the inside of the fold, and give it a nice little burnish. Then I'll apply some adhesive to this little tab that we made. Now, I could use my ATG tape or my double-sided tape, or I can use bookbinding glue. And the reason I'm going to go with bookbinding glue from my needle tip applicator here is because it just gives me a little bit of the ability to adjust the placement in case I don't nail it. So what I want to do now is line up the squared corners of this flap to the tab. The miracle of this whole process here is the fact that we were able to get 2 slimline horizontal card bases from 1 sheet of 12 by 12 paper. It's so cool. This is like, I love it. All right, then I'll put this away, put the lid back on. And now I have this cute little nesting panel here. So I'll add just my regular adhesive to this and center it. Now, if you want, I like to make sure that I have a 1/4 inch reveal. So I'll use my ruler to help me place that, because it's kind of a large reveal, 1/4 inch, 2 cubes on my ruler. Let's see, I can go ahead and add this to the tag, and I'm just going to cover the hole. It's up to you if you want to add the hole and then put like a topper on there, but I've decided to embellish this a little differently. So I'm going to center this onto the tag and grab some of this gorgeous silver edged ribbon. I'll cut 2 lengths that are wider than the tag by about 1 inch. And remember that ribbon has a grain. So when I loop these ribbons together, I want the grain, or the way the ribbon wants to fold, to be working in my favor. So I'll just fold those 2. I'll probably have to do this again, but this is where we're headed. A double looped bow here, and give that a tug. Okay, that's what I'm after. I'm gonna have some tape ready, and I'll grab my looped ribbons here. And I mean, there's more than one way to do this. I'll show you one way. You can take this ribbon, and I like to put them in like a narrow V shape so that that center of the bow is at the center of the cut apart. Then wrap it around to the other side and tape it. That leaves me this weird looking loop, right? And I'm going to bring the other ribbon through that loop, even out the ends, support the ribbon on the left with your hand, and then give it a tug and split it up a little bit again, like that little V. Hopefully that makes sense. And then I'll tape that in place. So that piece is kind of ready to go, but let's set it aside for now. And let's put all of these nesting panels in order by size. So we have largest to smallest. Look at all the math involved with this. Lots and lots of math. Okay, so I'm going to put these some of them on the inside of the card and some on the outside. So these 3 go on the inside, and these go on the outside. Now, when we place them, I want them to be, let's start out with this largest panel here, this aqua. So I want it to be kind of centered from the top to bottom of this card. and 3/8 of an inch in from the edge. Okay, now 3/8, don't get all worried about that. It's just 3 cubes on this ruler. So here's 0, 1, 2, 3. And then I want a, I think it's going to be like 1 3/4 of an inch from the top and bottom edge here. Okay, so now my ruler is just sitting there centered. I'm going to take this panel, add some adhesive, and replace it again. So 3/8 from the top and 3/8 from the bottom edge and the right edge. Now notice there's a larger space here, but here at top, right, and bottom is even. If you're not into measuring or using the ruler, that's okay. Just visually line this up so that it's, you see how it just kind of completes the scene here? These are the remaining 2 panels for the inside of the card. So I'll flip them over, and maybe we can even just spread them out, and I'll add adhesive to both. This is just more time saving, right? Then center this. You want to use a ruler, you can, or eyeball, and center this. Okay, then close the card. And now when we add our adhesive here, you have to be really careful. First, we can go ahead and nest this one. So I'll nest the sentiment onto the panel first. They're very similar in color. Now, when I place this one, I want it to kind of just cover that sentiment. So all I need to do is flip this over, bottom to top, and I can see the edge of where my adhesive needs to be placed, just in this area. If you place it, of course, over the whole thing, you're going to ruin your card. So now I'm just going to allow this to dictate the placement. I do have a little bit of that rounded corner sticking out. That's okay. And now I have this darling card. Now what's missing is this little element here. It's kind of going to be centered bottom, left, top. Come in with my adhesive. It's an uneven surface, so I gave it an extra dollop, and that'll be placed here. You could also attach this with foam adhesive circles if you like. Now in your kit, you also received an entire sheet of these gorgeous Dazzles stickers, and if you want, you can separate the backing from the sticker. So watch this. I pull this back very carefully, and it removes all of the backing that you don't need, except I see it left one behind. So you do have to be careful. This one stays. And I'll get rid of this. And I have to try to get this back kind of where it belongs here, so it'll fit on my sheet. Okay. I still like to use a craft knife to remove and place these stickers, but I have the cutest thing to show you on this particular card. On here, there's a heart. Do you see the heart? And this card is about the loss of a pet. I think that's one of the most difficult days in a person's life. If you have a pet and you lose it, that's just so, so, so hard. And I'm taking this heart, I'm going to add it to the center of that little flower. And it just says it all, doesn't it? I love how sweet that is. Very, very precious. And you can add these. We have lots and lots of different places we can add these little stickers. Look how they just, look at that detail. It's incredible. I can put it, if I want, I can put it right maybe here. Let's try that. So pretty. Maybe I can add another little something. I'll pick up one of these little guys. And the knife is so nice for like placing it. Just as an idea, okay? I didn't do that on my card sample. I just did it because it looks cool. You can make that same call, right? It's your own darn card. So that is the first of a series. And the remaining cards, let's see, this is the one we did together. And then you've got another one for the pet. And look at what I did with this one, just a twist of the ribbon. So I took this ribbon and I twisted it like that, just one twist, adhered it to the back and put the dazzle on heart on top of it. Now, hindsight, I would have moved it up a little higher, maybe so it could reach this side of the ribbon fold. But by the time it was stuck, it was really stuck and I wasn't going to wreck it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, on this one, here's where that heart went. I just trimmed it out. I added another little silver dazzle heart there. Here, instead of doing the twist or the double looped, because I had less room, I just stapled ribbon to the top and added the blue heart and a little sticker there. Another stapled ribbon, another heart, and one more little paisley sticker on the inside. Those are your slimline cards, horizontal slimline with that totally unique and very cool layering trick. And we've arrived at set C. It's always fun to get there. Now you see that D, we still have all these little minuscule, I mean, they're just, considering how many cards we made, this is not bad for your little scrap pile. Plus you have all these decorative options with those little art pieces that Jacqueline added to the Cutaparts. Those are up to you, but now our folio is empty and we've got more pieces we can sort. So lots of fun things in here. I just like to stack them up. We can add our panels. We've got some strips. We have some nestables here. And we have some prints. So we'll sort through all that in a minute. And our card bases. Let's just distribute them unfolded. We do have one score line that when we fold it, it's gonna make a short flap on the front of these cards. We'll begin with the black and then red, soft white, and aqua. Now let's take the strips, okay? These skinny guys, let's distribute those. So to this one, we'll go off-white, aqua, black, and red. Then we have two sets of larger panels, the print and the plain. We'll start with the plain. And I call this process the deal, and I deal it from my hand onto the cards. As you can see, we'll go aqua, black, red, and soft white. Nice and easy, print, 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 print. Now we have our sets of panels that nest again. We've got a larger set of 4 and a smaller set of 4. So I'm taking the larger set, continuing to add more color variation to each card base. So red, soft white, aqua, black. Then the final plain panel, black, red, soft white, aqua. Now we have our sentiments. Every day of your life is a special occasion and celebrate accordingly. 2 of those sets. Let the record show I sent you a card, not a text. If that isn't friendship, I don't know what is. Those are the remaining cards. Now you do have a set of envelopes here. And these are called A7. And that's designed to fit a 5x7 card. So you can slide all of the pieces required. And I just love the efficiency of this. So once you have your little sample, of course, you can just pause me and get all the rest of these assembled before you do this step. Just skip the step and assemble everything at once. Like for example, on those slimline cards, you could have rounded all the corners just in one fell swoop. But I like to do it this way too, because then we get everything done and all the hard work and concentration is behind you. And then you can just relax and enjoy the process of assembling and embellishing at your whim. So this is a very straightforward assembly. You're gonna love it. I got a great trick for you. Look for the bump of the score line, fold to bury that bump, and then burnish it with your bone folder. Now this little piece, we can go ahead and add him. He's gonna fit right here, and I want you to look for a margin equal at the top, right, and bottom. So I will adhere this. If you want, you could use your ruler. When I'm making my card samples for photography, for the instructions, I always use a ruler. I want it to be of the highest possible quality so that when you're looking at it, you might be inspired to, you know, kick it up a notch as well. It's not required, but I just always encourage you to improve your game, improve your skill, and your knowledge as well, and grow with me, because I too am learning something new every month when I make these cards with you. All right, so now we have this piece, and I'm looking to center this onto my card base. let's maybe think about looking from the left side. We got a 7-inch high card here, so my center will be at 3.5 on each edge. And then let's see, we're talking a half an inch from the top, left and bottom edge, so that the bottom edge and top edge of this panel will be at 3 inches. Now, when I apply adhesive, it's the same thing. I've got a partial area right at this seam where I don't want adhesive. So again, I like to flip the piece bottom to top, and I can add my adhesive within the defined area quite easily. I don't have to measure anything. I just kind of look at what I got going there, and then I can place it, and now I know it's perfectly centered. How cool is that? Next, I'm going to take this piece. Every day of your life is a special occasion, and I'll take some of this gorgeous aqua ribbon. I'm going to cut a fresh angle here with my fabric scissors. I always use fabric scissors, okay? And then the ribbon wants to be folded in half in this direction because ribbon does have a grain, and I'm going to staple this. So a flat edge of the folded goes right by the beginning of the sentiment, and I will staple that right there. Lovely. And I think that's going to get nested onto the black. And by stapling it first before I nest it, the back of the staple will be hidden on the panels. So I'll do this. The smaller the piece, the more you can eyeball safely without measuring. If they're larger pieces, I do like the help of the ruler, knowing that it's level. So here I kind of wanted the edge of this to be peeking between the aqua and the edge of the soft white. Looks very nice. And I have to be careful again not to put adhesive then in the area that overlaps here. You don't have to put it here. You could put it in the center. Okay, totally fine. That's the outside of the card. How easy is that? Now, here's my trick. I love this so much. Okay, so here we have Celebrate Accordingly. That's the inner sentiment. I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of it. And I want it so it sits right behind where the outer sentiment is. So I'm going to put this face down, make sure it's right side up, face down, and center it kind of within that red area here, so the margins are equal, and close the card on top of it. Isn't that clever how that worked? Oh, I just love it. Just such a fun little technique. Easy, easy. Now this card's done and you're ready to do the remaining 3. And here's a peek at those. I did a little addition here with the long strip from that gorgeous Dazzles sheet. It adds just a nice little special touch. I added some of the paisleys here. And again, the silver on the black is so pretty. So, decorate to heart's content. You'll have enough stickers left on the sheet when you're done to put more on the outside of the envelope as well. So keep that in mind to decorate your envelopes with a few of those paisley stickers. They're going to look fabulous. So that's all for our time together today. I hope you learned something new. Maybe you picked up a new technique or learned about paper grain, or maybe which side of the fold that bump of the score line goes. I know a lot of people in my classes are always learning new things and they love it, and it's so fun to see that happen. But I can't see it happen because you're on the other side of that screen. So if you learned something new today, leave a comment in the box below. And if you like this style of card making, think about a membership to our card club. We have a lot of fun every month. I always design a fresh new set of instructions and explore different card structures. It's one of my joys. It's one of the things I love most about Club Scrap. Now, we've been making cards and pages around here for it'll be 25 years in June. So it's pretty amazing, and I'd love to have you along for that ride. Now, we have a private Facebook chat group. You're welcome to join us there and share your creative successes. We love to cheer each other on. It's a very positive place. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, hit like, hit subscribe, and you won't miss another video release, and we do it often. We have a lot of content here at Club Scrap, so check us out and just give us a simple subscribe. It really helps our channel. So thanks again for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you in another workshop soon.